The authoritarian mirror. I think the scariest thing about Trump isn't what he did, it's what he proved. He proved how easy it is to break a country when you make people choose between truth and belonging. You know, This Morning tells you everything you need to know about Donald Trump. Reporters spotted him rushing out of the White House at about 8:45 a.m., moving fast, head down, dodging cameras, and not saying a single word. And where's he going? Not to meet with lawmakers, not to address the government shutdown that's hurting millions of Americans. Nope, he's heading straight to his golf course. Again. Now look, this would be bad enough on a normal day, but during a shutdown, while families are missing paychecks, federal workers are scrambling, and Americans are struggling just to get by, he's out there hiding behind the Secret Service at his private club. That's not leadership. That's escapism. And while all of this is happening, Trump's on social media posting about, wait for it, a triumphal arch. You can't make this up. Instead of addressing the shutdown, the pain people are feeling, he's focused on some grand monument he wants to build in Washington, D.C., dripping in gold, straight out of the authoritarian playbook. It's the kind of thing that says everything about where his head is, not with the people, but with his ego. Then comes the next bizarre move. The official White House account suddenly posts a statement claiming that Trump is in excellent overall health. Out of nowhere. Right after an unannounced hospital visit on Friday. No explanation, no transparency. Just a press release that reads more like damage control than reassurance. Now, the details of that visit are murky. The story keeps changing. First, it was a routine checkup. But here's what really matters. The White House is once again being evasive, secretive, and dismissive of the public's right to know what's going on. And let's be honest, this is classic Trump. It's always about image. Always about pretending everything's fine, even when the truth is cracking right through the surface. Meanwhile, Americans are not fine. People are losing health care, missing paychecks, and watching their government grind to a halt. And instead of empathy, instead of leadership, Trump's building fantasy monuments and hiding on the golf course. So when the White House says excellent health, maybe that's true for Trump's ego, but not for the country he's supposed to be leading. Because the American people deserve better than a president who disappears when things get hard.
Television tells everybody he aces them and then demands to take another one again because he talks about it all the time for years now, from Trump, from the first term to now. He will not shut the fuck up about taking cognitive exams. Listen to this.
For a lot of people, but I also did a cognitive exam, which is always very risky because if I didn't do well, you'd be the first to be blaring it. And I had a perfect score. And one of the doctors said he's almost never seen a perfect score. I had a perfect score. I got the highest score. And that made me feel good. When they asked, would I like to do one? I said, yeah. I said, did Obama do it? No. Did Bush do it? No. Did Biden do it? I definitely did. Biden wouldn't have gotten the first three questions right. No, Biden didn't do it. Biden should have done it. I'm actually a person that believes.
Okay. All the gold behind him. He's sitting there talking about it's a risky thing to take a cognitive test. It is a risky thing if you have dementia and you're president of the United States because the results of that could leak all over the place. He's never aced a cognitive exam. I think it was 60 Minutes in Trump 1.0 where he was going on and on about acing the cognitive test. He's failing them. There's no question about it.
100% he fails them. Or he has the doctor like, Ronnie Jackson that says not only is he in the best shape of any human to ever be alive, he's a great golfer, that kind of thing. But here's the thing. I don't get on this podcast and say, I passed a cognitive test. I'm not Don Jr. and get on the podcast and say, I don't do cocaine, because people are not questioning those things about me. He knows his father had horrible Alzheimer's and dementia. And by all reports, he hated that. He is walking down that line. He knows it, and the sycophants around him will not be honest with him and tell him, shut the fuck up. Just shut up.
No, nobody surrounding him will tell him that. He is incapable of hearing advice. And if anybody were to offer advice, they would be fired. Next up, okay, I think the man has not only dementia that is objectively visible, anybody can see it, but I also think he has like heart issues, clot issues, mini stroke type issues. I'm not a doctor, but I've read, from some doctors that have looked at this, the ankles, the bruising on the hands, etc. So he's going back to Walter Reed, which we reported on this yesterday. And it's only been 5 months. So he clearly, this guy's not a spring chicken. And he's going back and listen to him talk about his checkup.
To change gears just really quickly and ask you, you're going to Walter Reed tomorrow? What are you having done? And how are you feeling?
I'm meeting with the troops, and I'm also going to do a sort of semi-annual physical, which I do. And I think I'm in great shape, but I'll let you know. But I have no difficulty thus far. Is there wood around here? I'll knock on.
Okay. Perfectly healthy people don't go get checkups all the time. No. And he's not a hypochondriac. I think he is old. I think he has dementia. He's been talking about trying to get into heaven. I think biology is catching up with him. And I think the MAGA players in the MAGA movement are seeing this, because in order for a strong man to survive, he has to emit strength and this form of toxic masculinity. We have him there whining and complaining that he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. He's jealous that Obama won it. He's acing cognitive tests. And it's not like you're taking a Mensa exam. This is like the most elementary thing you can take. So he's not exuding strength. And we're starting to see fissures within the MAGA movement. And they have to act rapidly because they've all committed a lot of crimes. Everybody in his administration has committed a crime. And so put up this headline. The headline is that the Trump administration officials are seriously discussing invoking the Insurrection Act. Michael Still comments on this and says, this has always been the end game. It's how Trump gets to martial law and ultimately suspending the 26 elections. The fact that they are, quote, debating it should have alarms sounding off. It won't help to wake up to this fact after he does it. So here's the thing that everybody has to understand. They're flooding the zone. They're doing all of these things, but their leader, the dictator that's supposed to emit this masculine strength, badass. Think about Putin topless on the horse and how all the conservatives were drooling and beating off to that for a decade, right? Well, Kanks can't emit that type of thing. Yeah. And so they have to move very quickly to consolidate power with the executive so that when biology comes, and that's why I started off this episode talking to you guys about his checkup at Walter Reed and the diarrhea mouth, nonstop talking about the cognitive exams, because their only option is to consolidate power, martial law, and then shift power to their bought and paid for failed drag queen, Little Smokey.
Okay, Jennifer, I completely agree with what you're saying, but there's a part of me with all this because I believe that Trump knows that JD Vance has the claws out and that he knows that he's the useful idiot, get everybody together and consolidate, and that Vance cannot keep the cult together. So there's just like this conspiracy theory part of me. While I agree with you, there's like 10% of me that says, is he signaling to MAGA, if something happens to me and I were to die of my congestive heart failure or a stroke and JD Vance ascends into power, is he trying to signal, I'm as healthy as a horse? And these stupid people believe it because they think the ankles make his dick bigger instead of the fact that he has some kind of heart issue that he can't get blood through his deal. So do you think that's the craziest conspiracy you've ever heard?
Yeah, because he's not laying, he is an impulsive person. He sees what's in front of him. And right now he's the president and he thinks he's going to live a long time. He's looking at ending the 26 elections so that he can stay in power. My point is different than yours. Mine is the people surrounding him are capitulating and aiding and abetting because they know that JD Vance cannot keep the cult together and win a free and fair election. They know that. Marco Rubio knows he's committed crimes. They know they cannot have a Democratic blue wave in Congress. So the capitulation for them is jockeying so that when the transfer happens, they're legally protected and still inside the federal government. Moving along, this is just all you need to know about how serious he is about the Insurrection Act. The Midas Touch is reporting that the United States is deploying about 200 troops to Israel to help with the ceasefire. And Ben Meiselas retweets and says that's 4% of what he sent to Los Angeles. So they are dead serious about this Insurrection Act, and everybody's capitulating around him regarding the Insurrection Act because it is their lifeline. They know that they either have to be tethered to him or tethered to him being a dictator so that when power is transferred, then they are safe legally and that they still maintain power. Does that make sense, Pumps?
Yeah, no. And I thank you for the explanation because I was thinking about it differently, but I completely agree with your point. Exactly. And I find it interesting that he's acting like 200 troops is going to do anything in Israel. That just seems a very nominal thing to me.
Well, the bigger point for me with that is this shows you where his priorities are.
Absolutely.
His priorities are declaring war on American cities because he's dead serious about stopping the 2026 elections. He is dead serious. And they know, all of them know, their survival, their political survival, keeping their asses out of jail, keeping investigations at bay, all hinges on these 2026 elections. And they will move heaven and earth to try to prevent. So that's why Israel's getting 200 troops, because they don't give a fuck. They only timed that ceasefire so that potentially it could look like Trump could win the Nobel Peace Prize. That's why it was timed when it was timed. And I'm dead serious. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Because Netanyahu and all of the freak shows in his cabinet, they still want to ethnically cleanse.
Right.
Jared Kushner still wants to develop Gaza as a real estate development. That was timed as Trump's been giving Netanyahu all this shit. And he said, listen up, motherfucker, do the ceasefire so I can get the Nobel Peace Prize, because everybody's saying Trump's peace deal and all this, like he knows what he's fucking doing with that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. All right, here's the thing, you guys. So you have Stephen Miller that's doing the Insurrection Act. He's the one sending the troops to LA. He's the one sending them to Chicago. Trump's all in because he's like, I fucking hate Democrats and those people are mean to me and they didn't vote for me. So in my opinion, the evil forces surrounding Trump give him projects to work on while they do these anti-constitutional, law-breaking, illegal acts and push the bounds of the Constitution, because we are in the middle of an authoritarian takeover. It's almost complete. Yeah. And so what do they do to keep their dementia, swollen ankle man busy? Put this up. Here he is. Looking at plans. He has his decorating and construction projects on the Oval Office. On Trump's desk in the Oval Office today was a plan for a triumphal arch on the other side of the river from the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, you guys, this is, if any other president did this when the government was shut down, right? People were losing their health care. We're sending troops to cities. This guy, these are the projects Stephen Miller gives him. I think Susie Wiles and Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio are like, yes, let's give him little activities to do so that we can break the law, get the Insurrection Act, deport people, and we can have a white supremacist nation. And I'm dead serious. I don't even think that's hyperbolic.
And he proved that millions will follow you, not because they believe in you, but because you make them feel seen in their anger. He didn't invent cruelty. He just made it fashionable again. He made people proud of the worst parts of themselves. The insults, the lies, the mocking, it wasn't politics anymore. It was an identity. And when the system tried to stop him, the courts, the press, the voters, he turned their resistance into proof of persecution. That's what makes him dangerous. Not his power, but his ability to convince others they're powerless without him. He showed every aspiring strongman on earth that democracy doesn't need to be destroyed. It just needs to be mocked until it collapses on its own. And when that happens, we won't need another Trump, because we'll already be living in his aftermath. Maybe that's Trump's true legacy. Not his buildings, not his rallies, not his wealth, but the lesson he left behind. That democracy doesn't die in darkness. It dies in daylight, cheered on by people who think they're saving it. The next time the crowd chants for strength over truth or loyalty over law, they won't be cheering for Trump. They'll be cheering for the idea he left behind, that power is its own morality. And that's the danger that lingers.